Forget about it. Hello, everyone. In this video, basically, I want to show you how you might be able to level up your jazz playing or comprehension or vocabulary. And what we're going to do is use the changes for the bebop tune Ornithology, as made famous by Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, etc. All of these tunes like this kind of like help you learn how to play on chords better, because a lot of it is what I would like to call semi-diatonic, meaning that it kind of is in a key, but it has like the Picardy third change from major to minor, minor to major, and then the 2-5-1s. And then there'll be one or two color chords that are present that gives you an opportunity to kind of play like a more interesting phrase or scale or segment, and then jump back into something else. And what I did in the intro is I added a substitution. Okay, so I don't even know if they do that in the original, because I didn't really go back and listen to I haven't listened to the tune in a long time, but like what I did was, instead of just like on the tag turnaround, so instead of just doing that, I'm going like sometimes kind of a Clifford Brown, I guess it's flat 2, flat 5, 1, or 2-5 flat 2, or 2-5 sharp 1, or something. I don't know. It's the 2-5-1. It goes down chromatically instead of by a whole step. But what I like to do sometimes is, when you have like a chain of 2-5-1s, sometimes I'll go. So do the 2-5-1 between the 2-5-1s that would have otherwise been there. Part of the big thing here is going to be in developing, I guess, like a flow, like different types of lines, and not just the vocabulary over the chords or just bebop vocabulary in general, but also kind of the feel. Like what we're going for is the feel. Like Miles Davis talked a lot about mood in music. It's kind of like that. So I think a lot of times people sort of overgeneralize jazz, bebops type stuff as kind of like this stodgy thing. It's kind of blah blah blah. It's like this and like that. Or it's antiquated, or it's this, or it's that, or a bunch of invective that is essentially negative. It's still the same 12 notes, right? It's instead of like a lot of the way people play these days. Not everyone, it's like licks. It's like a lot of licks. It's not really like learning. I guess the difference would be, like, if I was going to do this video, I don't have a script. I'm not ready for my script right now. So if I was going to read from a script up there on a teleprompter, like every single thing to you, that would be the way a lot of people do things. And I understand why, but you're here for a different reason, right? Versus what I'm doing, which is just spur of the moment. I'm just kind of giving it to stream of consciousness. This is what it's all about. Yeah. So let's go ahead and kind of like start going over these chords. Obviously, I'll just go ahead and just recite the chords real quick. So you got just a G major 7, G minor 7, and 2-5-1s, G minor 7, C9, F major 7, F minor 7, B flat 9, or I'm playing like a different kind of a chord here, which is, like kind of like this. or you can play a B7, you know. Sometimes I go up there and change register and just play a totally different, you know, substitutive chord. But you should already know, if you're listening to this and trying to do what I'm trying to teach, you should already know basic 7 and 9 and 13 substitutions, you know. So and then E flat. I usually play an E flat. It's E flat 7, but E flat major 7, but I'll play E flat major 9 a lot of times, and then just go into a D7 sharp 9. Any kind of altered dominant works right there, you know, but not like a minor 7 flat 5 like that. Just that's got a nice voice leading. And then I like to play a G minor 6 here. So in the voicing, you know, if you add the 13 with a minor 7 in it, it kind of has a more. If you add the 6 with a minor 7 in it, it kind of has a minor 13 quality. So what gives, more or less, what gives a you know, like a minor 6 chord like this. It's, I mean, what we're talking about is the melodic minor scale, right? And its counterpart, which is the minor 7, the minor major 7, is the harmonic minor scale. Anyway, but with this, you could use either one, I guess. I like the way this minor 6 chord sounds. This is what I was talking about earlier with the color chord that shows up. That's like, here's an opportunity to make the chord sequence have a little bit of exotic thing happening, you know, versus just kind of the rest of it is kind of like flow based, you know, kind of a thing. This is more declamative. It's kind of like almost like a bookend. It's like, all right, here we go, cool jazz note time. So like, there's different things you could do. I mean, this is also a C9 from another perspective, but you've got, you know, it's the inversion with the 5th in the bass. So it's probably what Thelonious Monk would say is, you know, C9 with a 5 in the bass or something, right? C9 with a G in the bass. A lot of these chords they're ambiguous in nature, which is what causes them to be interesting and sound jazzy, right? Jazz, a lot of it though, is about harmonic ambiguity or stacked harmonic ambiguity. So we got that. And I'll kind of demonstrate something real quick. I kind of have to put the mic down a little bit. So first I'm going to play melodic minor scale, and then I'm going to do like an arpeggio, a D arpeggio that goes up to the 5th. Okay. And then I'm going to also do some arpeggios that are kind of modally based. So you can kind of hear right there where I'm stuck on this D. The D major, it has a bunch of notes in it that are in the G minor 6 chord, obviously. And then, you know, once you go to B minor 7, they're related tonally. And then, of course, if you're already in that arpeggio shape or root position arpeggio shape, you can kind of like, oh, I'm going to do that chromatic substitution and just have it follow the 2-5-1 down, you know. So that's kind of an interesting thing that you can do. And you kind of hear that in the chord progression of like Donnelly or some of these other bebop tunes, you know, like that. Like you can tell like they were playing around with chords and soloing over things, doing substitutions, and then it sort of started turning into, oh, that substitution is now the official set of changes for the tune. You know, because a lot of these pieces are just, you know, they took popular chord changes from, it's like sampling of other stuff, but like taking chord progressions from other popular tunes of the day and then making them faster and making weird melodies to them that are all janked up. Which we're still doing right now, you know. It's just that we're not, typically people don't do this in, you know, like, well, the modern jazz cats do, but like the fusion people, you know, will do it with a different type of beat. Maybe it's not like a swing beat so much as like a funky, worldish kind of different thing. Like, I mean, you know, it could be anything like a shuffling funk rock type thing or something. At that point, you know, you're hearing, right? And again, so I get to the substitution here, you know. So you're playing B minor, then B flat minor, A minor, right? And this type of stuff, you know, what we're trying to do is really just play every single chord that we can, like hit the change properly. I say properly, a lot of it is chromaticism, right? So I'll kind of play this really slow. I'm going to try to be very, very chromatic about this. All right, so yeah, so a lot of this is like, you can think of it, try to think less in terms of specifically what every single note is, but rather what the note is that you want to land on in what part of the beat, right? So, excuse me, I had to put this mute on so that I could play some right hand stuff while holding this microphone. So, I guess like kind of what we're doing here, right? Like, you see what I'm saying, okay? So you could kind of think of everything in terms of licks. But I'm kind of thinking like, you know, that... Right? So it's like one, dun, 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 dun. Maybe dun, 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 dun. Really simple syncopation, right? Syncopation. And that's, I mean, a lot of these lines that I'm playing are continuous. They're like perpetual motion, perpetuo moto. But that's just for demonstrative purposes, just so you can kind of get that in your ear and get more bang for your buck, you know. I guess there's different ways to approach this. We could just go in one direction, maybe. Kind of violated my rule a little bit there, but so in that particular example, we're always going like do 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 do, going up sets of strings. So now I'm going to switch back to my left hand, and I'm going to kind of just show you like how I would approach this at first if I was just trying to learn the changes. I would almost play this stuff like it was a Bach piece, like anything Baroque or classical, kind of, you know, we're just going to try to play the scales and arpeggios, kind of a deal. So basically like that, play the whole tune top to bottom with your arpeggio shapes and know them in different registers of the neck, right? And then obviously the same deal with the scales. Like you can kind of come up with different combinations of scale, things like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes going in some direction, up or down. Or, you know, da 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 da, like that kind of deal. You could play the whole thing like that. And I would, if you haven't already done this with a lot of things. But a lot of this, you know, you already know how to play over a G major and a G minor. You already know how to play over an F and an F minor. That's just really a question of, you know, like what you could do is just think of it like in a blues box scale. Like, so, like, you're in G major, you're in G minor. Then you do almost the same thing you just did, but down a whole step, because that's what it is, right? So, you know, you're thinking it's just the same deal as like when you're trying to solo in some blues thing or pattern, you're in one key and then it changes to a different key. You just move to a different part of the neck with the same exact shape, right? So you can think of it that way. It gets to the F minor, and then same deal. Like we kind of go into E flat, so it's kind of like in the key of E flat. So we're like. And then it goes to like a D dominant thing with the 7 sharp 9. So that chord, you know, there's a ton of stuff you can do on it. You can play some chromatic stuff that hints onto the chord tones with different parts of the beat. Little bits of the diminished scale and things like that. You can play the arpeggio of the chord. can play a minor, part of a major, blend the two. Really, like that scale works pretty good. It doesn't always necessarily stylistically fit what we're trying to do, though. So, a lot of times what I'll do, because major and minor are both in that, right? I'll sometimes use Phrygian dominant, little fragments of Phrygian dominant, which is, the D7 sharp 9. Now, the D7 sharp 9 is really kind of a passing chord. It's not a chord that we're trying to put an immense amount of emphasis upon, right? The one we want to put emphasis on is the G minor 6, right? That's the one we want to put emphasis on. So really, the D7 sharp 9 is like the chord that leads into that G minor 6 chord. So you see how what I'm doing there. You can kind of very clearly hear the harmony. And that's kind of what it is. Like, if you can find related tones between those two, it kind of reinforces the resolution that you get there. And then you have kind of a rebuilding of what I call like a soft tension that goes from, right? Because we're going to more consonant, less dissonant chord, but it's still, a major third away from the tonic fundamental harmony, right? So, when we get to there, this is just 2-5-1 playing all the way down, and then you're there. I guess if I was going to be showing like a piano player or somebody playing polyphonic stuff, there's a ton of other material that I could go over with regards to changing textures and styles and ideas, multiple lines at once, and how the bass and the chord and the lead line all interact with each other or could interact with each other, or reharmonizing this thing. There's different things that I can and would maybe do if I was really messing around with the tune a bit more. I don't always do that on every single tune, because sometimes I just want to play straight ahead changes that are relatively somewhat traditional, because that's an interesting sound. And I'm not trying to like bolster the style as this whatever, it's just, sometimes you want to play a simple blues, sometimes you want to play some bebop changes, sometimes you want to shred neoclassical, sometimes you want to work on a fingerstyle arrangement, sometimes you want to play a rock tune, a classic rock tune, a gent metal tune with tons of changes, sometimes you want a really fucked up fusion chart with all these weird things happening in it, sometimes you want to play some world music. I'm like that, But I don't know, a lot of other players, like they tend to get like one fundamental approach or filter or style, and then they kind of like everything goes through that. Everything's got to be like this. This is our sound. And I understand that's kind of commercial and it works, but I don't know. It's just kind of like if you're trying to like actually master the guitar or master music in general to a higher level, I don't know. It's just kind of a cheap way to just kind of like solve musical problems without actually having to like develop any additional abilities or study anything. It's kind of just like, well, this is our sound. And then, anyway, it's not like I'm putting somebody down. I'm not trying to do that. It's just, I felt that it's necessary to mention this because a lot of people hit brick walls, repeatedly. They hit brick walls, and it's like, I have no idea why I can't get better. I don't know why I can't do this and I can't do that. And it's like, well, have you considered, like mentally dropping the whole, I am a strict blues man. I can only play this and everything must be like that. I only play the heaviest of rock, technical, progressive rock, and everything. The tone has got to be just like this. And I've got to play a guitar that looks like this. The amp's got to sound like that. And and it's like, and then, like after a while they hit a wall and they're like, I don't know how to get any better. And it's like, well, you're kind of like handicapping yourself, by just kind of like shutting your mind to all these other possibilities. It's like, it's I guess like it's like ego death, right? Some people have to at some point kind of like accept the fact that you're never going to be that player that you think is so great. You kind of and like take an honest assessment of where you're at the time and just kind of be like, well, I'm pretty decent at these things, but I got to work on these other things, and don't beat yourself up about it. I mean, if you were perfect, if you knew everything, you could play everything perfectly without any practice or anything, you probably would be so together physically and mentally that music would not even be like your main thing. That would be just like some hobby. Like you'd be working on, I'm a neurosurgeon, like that's, so I'm gonna kind of like slowly play some stuff, and just kind of like when I do something, I'm fairly interesting or something, I'm gonna just kind of like stop and talk about what's going on. I just realized as I started doing that. So right there, right at the very beginning, this is something I noticed at some point when I was really getting into like studying solo guitar approaches, and I was kind of like using jazz pianists like Chick Corea as like a blueprint for what I would want to come up with and how I would adapt a polyphonic approach based on like, the fingerstyle of Stanley Jordan stuff and et cetera, et cetera. But, leaving the door open to any possibilities. But something I noticed is that before I really started studying Chick Corea and other people like Bud Powell and things, and I kind of got into Bud Powell from Chick Corea, you know what I mean? And Bill Evans too, like it was from Chick, because I was like, up until that point, I acknowledged that they were great players, but I was just kind of like, I didn't feel the connection to it as much. But once you see one of your acolyte people, like you're like, oh, that's how, it's kind of like people, metal guitarists or something will be like, damn, I really love his playing, like whoever it is, like Kirk Hammett or somebody, I don't know. And they'll be like, and then you'll hear an interview with somebody like that, and they'll say, oh no, I was like super into Hendrix and this other guy and this jazz players and like all this, and then they're kind of like, oh, it kind of makes a connection for to them, and they can kind of see how it developed, and it, like same deal, that's a whole other area. I probably need to do a video talking about some of these things and theorize on it, but yeah. So what I was trying to talk about was flourishes, right? Like if you study Baroque music or just classical music, but particularly like Baroque and different things, you can kind of see sometimes in the notation, there'll be like these little flourishes, like they'll have little tiny notes in the score. And it's just kind of like, those are just, so rather than write a bunch of like 30-second note trills and different turnarounds and little, like that kind of thing or something. They just put these little tiny notes, around in front of this bar, behind that bar, in front of this other phrase or something. And they're kind of considered to be somewhat semi-optional to play, right? But that's not what we're talking about. What I'm trying to discuss, though, is like how thinking of these things in that capacity is like they're good phrase starters or phrase enders. And I kind of noticed something with Chick Corea versus a lot of other players is that he was always doing these little flourishy things like that. Like people bend and do vibrato a certain way or something. Well, his thing was like he would do these little flourishes and things like that. And so also Bud Powell, which is kind of what I was doing with the beginning of that phrase, was like this triplet stuff. Instead of going like da-da-da-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da, he might be going like like that kind of thing. And it's kind of I don't know, like I guess it's kind of like a phrasal crutch or something somewhat similar, but it's a nice flourish, but it's like a way to a different way of like accenting or adding emphasis to something, or kind of like getting what I mean by phrasal crutch is like if it's a certain amount of notes, it might get you to the note that you want to hit on that part of the beat. But like it's kind of like a roll, like blah, yeah, and you're there. So like there's one thing. I mean, obviously, there's all these other things like where you're in circle notes. I think I've talked about this in multiple videos, but let's do it again. Did a lot of different things there, actually. You can encircle chord tones. Like sometimes you hear this in bebop heads, like Hot House or something. They'll encircle tones. But you could. It's like a classical thing, right? So, like taking the chord progression, G major, G minor, and then like encircling the tones. That's kind of neat. That's kind of hip. That's good exercise. I'll also do like some intervallic stuff, so like use fourths or quartals or something like that. So like sometimes I'll do that. And like there's a very good reason why I'm doing that. It's kind of a modern sound. Versus playing like chromatic church mode stuff. Yeah. So there's some ideas. I guess also just once again, I mean I've covered this in multiple videos, but like just playing just the bebop scale, right? Or so I think they typically consider the bebop scale to just be a major, but with both sevens in it. That way you get more of the octatonic thing going on. So that way you can be like 1 and a 2 and a downbeat, or da 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 da, and then you end up with the tonic on the downbeat. So that's one way. I also like to just add, the flat 5. And that's maybe even leave out the second or something like that. Go to 2 hands here. So like I'll take those notes and then try to come up with some interesting rhythmic things or something. So there you go. Let's kind of continue on here a little bit and then see where we end up. See, like that is not your typical kind of jazz line stuff. Using like wider intervallic material. Sixes and sevens and things like that. And then the fifths that I did going up like that, sometimes it's important to just run changes with different ideas like that. Kind of see what you come up with. But really, this is just about, you can get away with just playing like major and minor scales, or like the chord, the scale that fits over, like if it's a dominant 7 or something, just play a mixolydian, or, something else, something like a mixolydian with a flat 5 in it or something like that, instead of a 4. Depending on, like what the altered notes are, or play the altered scale. Like you can get away with doing that. And again, it's important to note, like the altered scale. What is that? It's just the mode of melodic minor. It's the 7th mode of melodic minor. It's all the same notes as the melodic minor scale. You just are starting from the 7th scale degree. Yeah. So I mean, like you can get away though with just playing major stuff. So I kind of played a few chromatic notes in the first part of that. But a lot of that is just, major, minor scales. Yeah. So again, just a slight recap on this. The most important thing that we're dealing with here is kind of like getting a rhythmic feel with the lines. So, that's pretty much taking, not just note choices, but like what's taking precedence for this kind of thing is going to be getting a good rhythmic feel. Okay, so one way to do this is probably to limit how many notes you're actually playing. Okay. So that perfectly illustrates what I'm trying to demonstrate. Also, like the using double notes and things like your Pat Metheny play a lot of double note lines with some of these kind of hard bop phrasic things. There'll be a lot of double notes amongst the chromaticism or just scalar and arpeggiated playing. So that's something to think about. But rhythm, you know, is like hit the changes in a rhythmic way, and doing what I just did, the last thing, is a really kind of a cool place to start, probably. So if you've lasted this long into the video, you got to that segment, you know, then you're winning now. You're beating the other people that failed out 10 minutes ago. Yeah. So that's just about it. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Be on the lookout for whatever kind of crazy videos that I'm going to come out with next. And hope to see you again.